Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout 4, where today we're going to be taking a look at the hunting rifle and all of its unique variants, and going over the pros and cons of this, and how strong the rifle actually is. So the hunting rifle is probably going to be a fairly early game weapon that you unlock. It's going to be early to mid game, and this is going to be one of the more regular looking guns in Fallout 4. There's nothing really wrong about the hunting rifle, besides all of them being, well, left-handed, which is a little bit strange, but that's not necessarily wrong. It's just different. I know this was because the model was flipped when they modeled it, but even so, it's still a little bit weird. So the hunting rifle is a bolt-action 308 rifle, at least by default. That's pretty normal. That's what most of the time the hunting rifles are in Fallout. Not all the time. Sometimes they do come in weirder calibers than this. But the hunting rifle, at least for the normal version, is generally a sawed-off rifle. It's like an Obrez, which is strange. I don't know why that's the norm. It kind of makes sense for the player to be able to do that. I don't know who in the Wasteland would really want a cut-down rifle for most jobs. Either way, let's go over the stats of it and how good the hunting rifle actually is. So the hunting rifle does 37 damage regularly, which is pretty good damage. 11 damage per second. This one doesn't shoot very fast. It is a bolt action, so you do have to cycle the bolt every time. Cycle the bolt every time. Got to use the other hand for this game. This one has 131 range, which is quite long range. The hunting rifle generally has the most range, or one of the most ranges out of any weapon in the game. You would kind of hope for a weapon like this for it to actually have very long range. This one also has very high accuracy at 71. That can be increased even further with mods, so even when it's cut down to the pistol, it's actually still pretty decent, unless you're trying to hip fire it, and then it's okay. This one costs 28 action points to be using in VATS, which is kind of surprising. It actually doesn't take very many action points to be using. This one has a magazine of 5 rounds in it. At least by default, you can get extended mags for this. And this weighs 9.6 weight. Why a cut-down rifle weighs that much, I don't know, but the weights are weird in Fallout, so maybe a fully modded out one should be about 9.5 weight, but the cut down one shouldn't be that heavy. For the pros of the hunting rifle, this one does high damage, which is pretty good. It can even do higher damage if you want to swap it from 308 to 50 cal, which is nice. And this has long range. This is probably going to be your first long range weapon, assuming you don't want to use like the laser musket for long range. The cons of this though are kind of the normal cons for the hunting rifle in the Fallout game. So slow rate of fire, you can't make really fast follow-up shots with this, which might matter. At a distance it won't, but at close range it kind of will. And this one does fall off later. That's pretty annoying, especially since this and the pipe rifle are the only two that can use 50 cal rounds. And you would think 50 cal would really not fall off. Maybe be difficult to find, maybe be expensive if you want to buy, and maybe be heavy, but you really wouldn't think that it would fall off in terms of damage towards the late game, but it actually does, because you can modify other weapons to be stronger than the hunting rifle. Something like the 44 can be stronger than the hunting rifle, which is rather annoying, but that's how it is in this game. For perks, just go with Rifleman. That's going to be the main perk for the hunting rifle, because this is always considered a rifle, and it's always considered manual action. You can't turn this into a full auto hunting rifle, which would be bizarre, but I wouldn't put it past Bethesda to try that. For an overall rating for the hunting rifle, I would say this one's like a solid B tier. It's not bad at all, it's pretty decent, but it will fall off later, and it makes for a decent early game weapon for something that does give you fairly long range and gives you fairly high damage at that range. Let's talk about a modified version of the hunting rifle and what mods I would put on it. So for a receiver, the best receiver or the highest damaging receiver is going to be the 50 cal receiver. And you might as well go for that because it is only one of two weapons that use the 50 cal ammo, and this is the better of the two that uses it. So you want to have that, because if you want to keep it 308, there are other guns that can also become 308 that are just kind of better than the hunting rifle. For a barrel, I do like the long light barrel on this one. This makes it so the weight isn't too much, and it gives me the most effective range that I can have. For a stock, I usually go with the marksman stock. It's just the best for recoil, although the regular full-size stock is also pretty decent. I like the look of it quite a bit on this gun, so pick one of those two. For a magazine, you can kind of pick whatever magazine you'd like. The 5 shots in the hunting rifle is usually enough, at least for the job that you're kind of going for with the hunting rifle. So you could just switch this over to a quick eject version of that. I usually go with the medium quick eject, which will take my magazine from 5 to 7. I find that to be a little bit more convenient. If you don't like that, though, you can either go with the 5-round magazine or with the 10-round larger magazine. You might as well just switch them over to the quick eject ones, though, because that's going to be the fastest way to reload. For sights, pick whatever sight you would like. Usually I go with the medium scope here, because I find that gives me a decent amount of zoom, and I'm not going to be shooting pretty much anything in Fallout at very long range. The game doesn't have great render distance, so I find like the long recon scope and the long night vision scope and the long regular scope just aren't very useful. Usually I go with the short or the medium one. If you want to go with iron sights or glow sights or the red dots, you can also go with that too. Those ones are perfectly fine as well. plenty of time, at least in the early game, I used like just the red dot, then I'll swap it out for a scope later on because I don't always have a great weapon for fighting at medium range, and then my hunting rifle sometimes defaults to that. And then for a barrel attachment, I go with the suppressor. The suppressor will get you the most amount of damage if you go with the operator's perk, and it just fits the best on the sniper rifle in my opinion. But you could go with the muzzle brake or with the compensator on there too. Both those are fine. Or even with the bayonet if you want to stab stuff up close with the hunting rifle. For an overall rating for the regular hunting rifle, this one's quite a bit better. I would say this one's probably like an A tier weapon. It still gets outcompeted though. Like I said, the 44 beats it out, so the Western revolver will also beat it out in just terms of raw damage. It gets beat out by the combat rifle in terms of practicality as well. That one's just sort of better than this, but this one's not a bad option, especially if you can get a legendary version of the hunting rifle early on, then it can actually be really good. And speaking of legendary versions, we actually have 3 to talk about, sort of. One of them doesn't actually have an effect on it. Let's talk about that one first. The first one is Reeba, and Reeba is just a named hunting rifle. For stats, it is just the same as the base statted hunting rifle, so same damage, same DPS, same weight, same everything. It just has a unique name to it. There's actually no difference between this and a regular hunting rifle, except for the mods that it can have on it, because any of these legendary weapons can come with random mods on there. Usually this one's like a full stock and some sort of sight, so if you want to rush and get this one right away, you can do that, and you'll have a better hunting rifle than you otherwise would, so that's kind of nice. But it would also go into B tier. The Reeba 2 is better. You can find this at the same location that you can find Reeba 1. You just have to unlock the door to get it. And this one does have a legendary effect, as well as it does have different stats because this one is modified. So this one does 64 damage per hit, so quite a bit more damage. 26 DPS, which is better because its damage is higher. 215 range, very long range on this one. 92 accuracy, also very accurate. This one costs 28 action points, holds 5 rounds in the magazine, and this one weighs 15.5 weight, so quite a bit heavier. But if you do want to rush and get this one, you can. It comes with the legendary effect of Exterminator. Exterminator gives you 50% more damage towards bugs and Mirelurks. This can actually be pretty good. Mirelurks are a threat all throughout the game. Bugs can be a threat, especially in the early game, sometimes in the later game too, especially once you hit those incremental levels where you start getting stronger enemies. Like you might get a festering bloatfly that deals really high damage to you all of a sudden. The stingwings can be kind of annoying. The rad scorpions can do pretty high damage. There's always the Mirelurk Queen and the Mirelurk Kings, as well as like the Mirelurk Hunters. So Exterminator is actually not a bad effect to have on a gun like this. It's not the best effect to have on the hunting rifle, but it's not a bad one either, so I'd probably put this one up into A tier as well. It's also pretty good. Reeba 2 is worth going out of your way to get. And then the final one we've got is the Tinker Tom Special. This one you get from Tinker Tom from the Railroad. And this one's kind of interesting because it has a little bit better stats than the regular hunting rifle. So this one does 37 damage, same as the regular one. However, this has 17 damage per second. It does cycle a little bit quicker. This one has 185 range, 112 accuracy, so it is very accurate. Costs 28 action points. This one holds 5 rounds in it, and this one weighs 16.7 weight. This one's also usually heavily modified, so that certainly helps out with it. This one also comes with a legendary effect. This is higher VATS accuracy if you're not in combat with the first shot, but it does increase the amount of action points you're going to be using on that first shot. So this one can be very good at very long range. That's also why its range and its accuracy are so high if you use it in VATS on enemies. And if you want to do that, then this one's pretty good. I don't think that that ability is really that great on a hunting rifle, not opposed to some of the ones you can get, particularly like instigating. If you get an instigating hunting rifle, that one's going to be really good. But if you just get this one, if you're using VATS, cool. I don't really use VATS, especially for guns, and especially for a rifle like this that I'm only going to really be using at very long range, or longest range that I can in Fallout 4. And it's probably just going to be the way to initiate a fight or pick off enemies at a distance that don't realize I'm there. Then once enemies get close up, I'm probably not going to be using this. So the VATS won't really play a factor to me. But if you do like this, this is a better version of a hunting rifle. Again, still not the best. If you get an instigating one, that one's probably the best. And that one I would say is S tier. But this one, still decent, so I'd put it either at the high end of B tier or the low end of A tier, somewhere around there. And that'll do it for the hunting rifle and all of its unique variants. So the hunting rifle can be pretty decent. Again, if you get instigating, it's pretty good. If you get mighty, it can be pretty good. The Reeba 2 isn't bad, especially if you want to rush it. The others are just kind of okay in my opinion. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Tell me your thoughts on the hunting rifle down in the comments below. How do you enjoy using this, and do you enjoy using it? I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.